Welcome to BreitWerks. What we're looking at here is a 2004 955 Porsche Cayenne S with a big V8 motor. And this one has about 150,000 miles on it, so nothing overwhelming. But it was getting an intermittent stalling at idle. And at first, the owner described it as the key would start clicking. So I said, all right, let's just change the battery, see if that fixes it. Lo and behold, that did not. While we were changing the battery, we also found a crankshaft position sensor fault in the computer. So got her back in here for a crankshaft position sensor. Now, what am I showing you? How do you get to the thing? Well, the sensor itself is on the transmission bell housing, but the harder part is getting to the connector. So these are mirror images, right? So we've taken off the recirc fan, and we've taken off the bracket for the recirc fan. And what that'll allow you to do is get yourself, there's the steering wheel, get yourself down here behind the cylinder head, and way down on the back side here, there is a connector. You can kind of see the orange face, right? And the connector that's right there, the gray part, is the wiring harness. And the orange part is your actual crankshaft position sensor. Now, when I was doing my research on this, because we've never done one of these before, working on Cayennes for, 18 years. And haven't done one of these before. But in this area is where the turbos have a lot of problems. So we're familiar with that back corner. However, a lot of guys were talking about they break the little holder on the back here. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, old brittle plastic. But the reality is, if you look at your new part, you see this tab right here? This tab, if you push this tab, so the way it's oriented in the car is like this, right? So you have to get your finger underneath there. But this slides into the holder. So if you get a finger in there and you can squeeze that tab, it's basically locking this guy in place. So if you squeeze that tab, you can move it in that direction, right? So that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to get it out of the plastic holder, because Porsche put it there for a reason. It's a standoff so that it doesn't get too hot. So you use one hand to get under there and kind of squeeze this little tab right here. And then I used a flathead screwdriver and just kind of gently pushed it in that direction towards the rear of the car. It came right out. So when it comes out though, make sure you don't lose it, because it's a little bit easier. What I did was I zip tied the new sensor on this side to the old plug harness, and then I pulled everything down from the bottom. And what that allowed me to do is make sure that the routing was correct. But you've got 3 bolts that hold on the mount for the fan, and you can use an 8mm. An 8mm 6-point will get you there, but it is actually a reverse Torx or an E-Torx, and it's a pretty actually big head for an E-Torx, so it requires a 3/8 inch. I didn't want to do that, so I used the 8mm so I could stay with all my 1/4 inch tools, because everything gets really tight back here. So we're gonna get on with it, get it swapped out, but I think this little trick right here, if you can squeeze this, right? See how it'll squeeze? It'll keep that, it'll allow the lock to release, and this guy will just slide right out of its holder. And that makes life a whole lot less interesting, because you don't have to figure out, how do I zip tie this thing and put it back together. So, all right, we'll get on with it and get back with you. Okay, so we're under the Cayenne, and for reference, there's the front of the car. Coming over to the driver's side, we're gonna swing around, and if you look at where your second oil drain plug is, you go back just a little bit on the bell housing. So, if I'm starting from the transmission in the back, Go up here to the bell housing and see if I can get my finger right there. That's your crank position sensor. Now this guy has a lot of little ties that are holding the wire. So what you can see now is I sprayed some Gibbs oil on there just to be able to get the wire out of its fancy ties. So I use a little light here, but you can see there's one right there. That's the easy one. There's two more above it that have to get unclipped. So we're going to be working towards that. Wow, it doesn't even want us to be able to see them. But yeah, like I said, I sprayed a little Gibbs oil on there so that the wire is lubricated. And we're going to fish the new one in from the top. I actually have it zip tied to the old connector so that as we pull this guy down, it'll come through in the same routing area. So we'll check in with you, see how that works. Okay, so we managed to get the old one out, and that's the new one hanging right there, ready to go in. It's a tough spot. Can't really see too much in there, but to give you a peek, this is one of the flywheel counting teeth. So we're going to clean that up a little bit. There's a little corrosion in there. But as far as the old sensor, right? So here's the old sensor, and it didn't have any big metal flakes, but it's got a little bit of, yeah, see a little bit of rust on there. So fingers crossed that this is what's causing our intermittent stalling issue. But yeah, we'll get everything cleaned up, put her back together, and see what happens. The crankshaft position sensor, the new one's installed, and we managed to get it into all three of the loops. There's a lot of hot stuff here, so it's kind of important that you get them clipped back on, because otherwise that little wire will make its way over to that catalytic converter, and you'll be doing this all over again. So this guy got torqued 10 Newton meters, and also we used blue Loctite, mainly for the dissimilar metals, because anybody who's ever worked on aluminum stuff knows those little steel bolts will get themselves stuck. So the blue Loctite just makes it so that we don't have a dissimilar metal and get a corrosion issue. Okay, we got the hard stuff reinstalled, so it is the moment of truth. Walk around here. We got to put our foot on the brake. So let's see what happens. Well, it started. So there's a little trepidation with the new Bosch stuff because you're not quite sure where it's made. However, we are going to call this done. So we'll go put all the plastics back on, and hopefully you enjoy your day. If you liked our video on this Porsche Cayenne crank position sensor, click that subscribe button, and you can check us out at BreitWerks.com. Thanks for watching.